What's going on, guys? We are back with another UFC Top 5 video, and it might be the last UFC Top 5 video. I haven't decided. I've covered all the topics I wanted to cover. We are going to do a Top 10 Worsts of 2018. That's still to come. But as for Top 5s, I don't think I'm going to do another one, so let's end it off with a banger. It's going to be the UFC's 2018 Top 5 events. So these are full either pay-per-view or fight night cards. For this list, I have only pay-per-views, actually. I thought the pay-per-views were the best cards of the year from top to bottom, overall, stacked-wise. And you are going to see my choices in this video. I just want to ask you guys, if you guys have enjoyed this series or any of the top 5 videos or enjoying the channel content in general, please, I ask you guys to drop a comment on this video with anything you guys please. Comment just something, okay? That's all I'm asking for. If you want to subscribe, if you want to like, if you want to do any of that stuff, dislike the video, it's all up to you. But all I ask, if you're watching this video, is to drop a comment and let me know what you guys are thinking, okay? That's all I'm going to ask, but let's get straight into the top 5. So we're going to start off with number 5. At number 5, we have from Dallas, we have UFC 228 Woodley versus Till. Now, looking at this card, I didn't think it to be an amazing card. It doesn't blow off the talent or the names don't blow off the sheet. The matchups don't take me in. They don't draw me, but from top to bottom, this card was a good one. And I'm going to go straight to the main card. We have Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Nico Price. Now, if I was going to do a ground finish video, this would have to be on the list. You have an amazing display of striking with a perfectly placed foot, delivering hammer fists that put Nico Price's lights out. Now, that was an amazing finish, but it gets even crazier than that, because then we have the submission of the year. According to the UFC, I didn't do a submission of the year video. Jordan do a submission of the year video. But Zabit Magomedsharipov delivered the straight leg. I don't even know what they call that submission over Brandon Davis. I want to get my facts checked here. But he got that perfect submission, that straight leg stretch that was so brutal and so beautiful at the same time, and you just saw the pain seep through Brandon Davis's face. You had a submission of the year. You had a ground finish of the year. But what else could you want from this main card? How about the greatest one-punch KO in women's MMA history? Jessica Andrade drops a bomb, KOing Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Now, I know the talent doesn't stand out of this card, but every moment, every finish was must-see TV. If you were watching, if you went upstairs for a full fight, if you went downstairs for a full fight, if you went away from your TV for a fight, you missed some ridiculousness, some amazingness. John Dodson, Jimmy Rivera, I'm sorry you didn't do it for me, but still, you missed some amazingness. This was a great card, and then you have the main event. Now, the main event had some story going into it. What happened to Kobe Covington? Why is Woodley not fighting him? Why is Till in there with Woodley? Are they rushing Till against the champion? Are they trying to take that belt from Woodley with a guy that's so great on his feet? Is that what they're trying to do? A more powerful Stephen Thompson? Do the UFC hate Woodley? What do we get from the end? What's the result? What's the headline? Woodley retains. Woodley retains the UFC title with a beautiful finish, a beautiful stand-up hook that knocks Till down, and then Woodley just shows that his ground game is on a different level than Darren Till, submitting him with ease. I understand Till was eating some bombs. He probably wasn't even in the right of mind on the ground, but still, Tyron Woodley landing a perfect darce. What a beautiful finish. What a beautiful main event to top off an amazing main card of action. But let's get straight to number 4. What do I have as number 4? I have UFC 221. Now, this one actually had a main event shuffle, but the main event shuffle led to Whitaker versus Romero, which was an amazing fight. Now, this debuted a bunch of New Zealand and Australian talent, some great names on this card. We had Mark Hunt, who was actually fighting on this card. He actually fought, surprisingly, against Curtis Blades, who somehow survived a massive punch that came back and decision-dominated Mark Hunt, the stand-up beast. Then you had Tai Tuivasa versus Cyril Asker. Tai Tuivasa making a massive wave on the scene, making a giant step for Australian and New Zealand MMA. With the shoey at the end, it was an amazing win for Tai Tuivasa. Then you have Tyson Pedro, a guy who knows how to talk and he knows how to fight, picking up a great win at home. The audience of this card almost took it for me. The audience of this card was amazing, cheering on hometown talent from bell to bell, from the first fight on the prelims to the main event fight. It was an amazing card. And then you have the war between Luke Rockhold and Yoel Romero with a brutal finish. This could have been another fight of the year with starring Yoel Romero, who almost decapitated, in the words of Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith said it. Romero almost decapitated Yoel Romero. We got to see the arrogant and smug Luke Rockhold asleep on the canvas. If the Bisping win wasn't enough for you haters of Luke Rockhold, you got this masterpiece punch from Yoel Romero and this masterpiece follow-up. What a finish for Yoel Romero. A great fight, topping off a great card. Now let's get to the next one entry on my list. I have at number 3 a card that led to one of the biggest main events of UFC 2018, and it was Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic. I think this was the first pay-per-view of the year, and it did not disappoint. It had Stipe Miocic, it had Daniel Cormier, it had that Rob Font ridiculous underdog win. It had that ridiculous Calvin Kattar late round finish. It had John Vellante. He's a great guy. He's a great dude. He can make it on this list for something. This was a great card, and it led to Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. Now, that card wasn't so good from top to bottom as much as this one was, and it stars the same talented fighters. We got to see Stipe Miocic derail the UFC hype train that was Francis Ngannou. We saw Daniel Cormier dominate Volkan Ozdemir, regaining. This was probably, I would say this was where he regained his light heavyweight championship, because he was just giving it back after John Jones popped for steroids. This was just a good card with a lot of good names on it, and a great fight in Miocic and Ngannou, and a great finish in Cormier versus Volkan Ozdemir, and a great finish in Qatar, a great finish in Rob Font, and a John Vellante win. You can't ask for much more from a main card than that one. Let's get to number 2. Now, I have a little personal thing with this card because I was at home. This was in my home. This was in Canada. This was a Toronto pay-per-view. It was UFC 231. Now, I don't know how TV captured it. I must say, if on TV it didn't look so crazy, goddamn, the audience went wild the entire night. And we got to see 2 title fights. A debuting flyweight women's champion. Not a debuting, my God, Nico Montano. Why the fuck did you have to screw that up so hard? This should have been the debut of the title, but we had a new champion. We had the first ever champion, in my opinion, of the women's flyweight division, and we had Max Holloway versus the up-and-coming Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert, Brian Ortega. Now, the main event probably carried this card in a lot of people's minds, but in mine, there was so much to talk about. Now, let's just talk about the main event to start. A war that the ref had to get in to stop. Neither of these guys were going down. Both of these guys were going to take tremendous amounts of punishment to leave Toronto with the belt. And both guys were loved by the audience. If you were there, you could hear the Ortega chants. You could hear the Holloway chants, which I started most of. But still, it was a great card. It was a great main event between those two and the war that they put on. And it was just, it was gasping for air at live at the stadium. When Ortega got Holloway's back for a second there, I was shaking. I was like, Holloway's going to lose. But then Holloway coming back and delivering more powerful strikes, being the bigger man, and Holloway coming out with a win. Then you had the striking match between Shevchenko and Joanna, which was, I think, very split, very even. And I'm just going to put this out there. Shevchenko's speed is ridiculous, I must say. Shevchenko could be one of the greatest women fighters of all time, looking at that matchup with Amanda Nunes, but I'm just going to skip that for this. That fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, it was really, really close. I must say, from watching it, it was close. The only time Shevchenko really took home a round, if it was really close going into the last minute, was when Shevchenko went for a takedown and ragdolled Joanna. You could tell who the fighter that was moving up to fight in this weight class and the fighter who was moving down. It was a strength difference in the wrestling exchanges, and I think that Shevchenko had some more power behind her strikes, but a wonderful co-main event. Then you got some brutality, if you like it, in Gunnar Nelson versus Alex Oliveira. Oliveira comes out happy and cheerful, listening to his music, doing a little dance. It was fun. It was a fun entrance. But then, in the first round, Alex Oliveira actually came out and did some pretty decent work. He actually had Gunnar Nelson in bad positions on the ground. But when the second round came, we saw Gunnar Nelson just dominate, and he landed a vicious elbow that cut Oliveira down the forehead, and the blood was ridiculous. It was a pool of blood, even from a couple, like I was at least 25 rows up. Man, this guy, the blood on the canvas was vicious. It was a brutal elbow, and then it was ruled a rear naked choke, but the fight would have been stopped to strikes either way. Then you had a sleeper. I wouldn't say this fight was amazing. It was Hakeem Dawodu, who's a hometown kid, Canadian, and you had Kyle Bochniak, who proved that he had a chin. I think we wanted Dawodu to prove a little more here. Take on a guy that just came off Fight of the Year, a Fight of the Year candidate, a Fight of the Year with Zabit Magomedsharipov, and finish him. But we didn't get to see it. We got to see a lot of moving around, a lot of pulling away from strikes, pulling away from combinations. But still, it was okay. It was a decision. You could get a beer in this fight, whatever. But oh my God. I honestly, I don't know how I didn't include this on top 5 fights of the year. This has to be number 6 for the fights of the year. And this is the first fight on the main card of this event. Thiago Santos, brutal, versus Jimmy Manuwa. What a war, man. War these two put on. Just a stand-up brawl. Jimmy Manuwa throwing. Thiago Santos throwing. Thiago Santos flipping in air, throwing enziguri kicks. This was a There were some WWE strikes in this fight. And it was a brutal fight, man. Both guys were getting rocked on instinct. It was just rock, 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 rock. Jimmy Manuwa comes back. Thiago Santos, oh my God, what a war it was. That just made this card number 2 for me, easily. If you have Holloway, Ortega, Shevchenko, Joanna, you're probably 5th or 4th. You put this fight on there, you're straight up to number 2. I couldn't put it at my number 1 spot because the number 1 event is obvious, I think, to anybody who has half a goddamn brain. But we'll get to UFC 231, my number 2. Let's get to number 1. What do you guys think I have as number 1, for God's sakes? It's pretty obvious. It's UFC 229, the sale beyond sales. We had Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor in a massive fight. This broke every one of the UFC's pay-per-view records. I think it did 2.5 million buys. It broke every record this year. Conor McGregor is further cementing himself as the biggest pay-per-view draw in UFC history. And we have him against a Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is the most dangerous, the most scary fighter for anyone in the UFC. Ask Tyron Woodley, who's a 170, how he wants Khabib. He wants Khabib to stay put. Khabib, you can stay down there, buddy. You're 27-0. You can go 45-0 for all I care. Just stay there. Just get out of, don't come into my legacy. And Khabib Nurmagomedov proved that he is the best lightweight on the planet right now, defeating Conor McGregor via rear naked neck crank. I thought Conor could have fought the hands a little better. I like Conor McGregor. I know. It's tough being a McGregor fan right now, but still a great main event fight. Now let's get to the rest of the card, for God's sakes. Even the Felice Herrig Michelle Waterson fight was a good one. Michelle Waterson showed, man, I got some kicks for you. I got some kicks for Felice Herrig. She was throwing some beautiful kicks, body kicks, head kicks. She was going everywhere and anywhere. That was a great fight. Then you have OSP versus Reyes. If you want to say this was the sleeper on the card, go look at the finish and tell me that again. You can't say that with a straight face. The finish of this fight was ridiculously brutal. If you're judging a main card, this might have been one of the best cards ever in UFC history, for God's sakes. And the talent it made from here. Reyes with a beautiful KO of OSP in like the last 10 seconds. The horn goes. What a beautiful finish. Then you move on to Derek Lewis's shine, Derek Lewis's glory moment. This is what made Derek Lewis, in my opinion. If you watched UFC, you knew he was a funny guy, but you just got to see him on this one. This got him put into the pay-per-view against Daniel Cormier for the heavyweight title, in my opinion. For God's sakes, man, this guy was being beaten up for 2 rounds and then came back in the last minute of the 3rd round and delivered a shot that made waves around the world. What a win for Derek Lewis.
I'm here with the winner, Derek Lewis. Derek, why'd you take your pants off? My balls was hot. I understand.
And then the post-fight press conference, my balls was hot.
I understand.
What an amazing moment. What an amazing night for Derek Lewis. God sakes, this guy is one of the biggest stars. He's going to be one of the biggest draws in the UFC in 2019. Good for Derek Lewis. And then you have my second on the fight of the year list. This was second, for God's sakes. And you have Khabib McGregor after it. Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis. What a war, man. War. Santos Manoa. This one puts that to shame. Anthony Pettis rocks Tony Ferguson. A surprise to all of us, even though Tony Ferguson was coming off of an injury. But he rocks it. He gets rocked. He does a roll. He gets a hammer fist to the face. Then they meet on the ground. This is where I thought Tony Ferguson started to get the mental game back, started to take control a bit. I know Pettis is good on the ground, but Ferguson is on another level. He has Eddie Bravo in his corner just to prove my point here. Tony Ferguson starts getting control back against Anthony Pettis, and in the end, Tony Ferguson just brutalizes Pettis in the second round, and the judges and Pettis' corner has to call off the fight because he can't even throw a punch. He broke his hand throwing bombs at Tony Ferguson. This fight could have gone either way easily. If you were going to go into that third round, I had no idea who was going to win. I thought Tony Ferguson was going to finish him off in the third round, but that could have been changed. Pettis showed that he had power enough to rock Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson doesn't have the greatest chin on planet Earth, but still, what a wonderful fight. And that is my number one card of 2018, UFC 229. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. The one that I would honorable mention, or it might even it might pop to number 4. It would be UFC 232, the one that just happened. It came second in pay-per-view buys, but I thought the main event lacked a bit. I thought the biggest story about the main event was goddamn John Jones and the picograms. That main event was a little bit of a sleeper, and then we had a great co-main event, but the rest of the card was a little bit sleepy, a little bit dazed. Katzengano get the foot and the toe in the eye. You had a shitty fight to open, like before the main card. You had a shitty fight with that heavyweight that I bet on. I can't believe it. Against Arlovsky. That was rough. That was just, I don't know. I don't think it had enough stacked in the main card. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. Nonetheless, that's going to do it for me here on JFT Sports. Again, comment anything you guys want. Comment on any video you guys can. It means the world to me. I like hearing what you guys have to say, and it shows me that my viewers are actually a little bit interactive and they actually understand what's going on. All right, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching in the day, have a great day. If you're watching at night, have a great night, and that's going to do it. Peace out, guys.